Leadership Austin, and particularly want to recognize
With a new form of government taking shape at City Hall and every seat up for grabs, Austin voters elected 2 new City Council members on November 4th and sent 16 council candidates, plus 2 vying for Austin mayor, to runoff elections. Tonight, Beyond the Rhetoric, we sit down with the newly elected council members to hear how they will lead their districts and our city.
Support for Civic Summit comes from Google, a global technology leader focused on improving the ways people connect with information. And also by Texas Mutual Insurance, providing workers' compensation for Texas employers.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for Civic Summit, Council Member-Elect Conversation, a joint production of KLRU, Leadership Austin, KUT, and the Annette Strauss Institute for Civic Life. I'm Jennifer Staten with KUT 90.5, Austin's NPR station. Our discussion tonight is going to focus on leadership. We want to know what skills and qualities our three newly elected council members will bring with them to City Hall. And we invite all of you to tweet along with us. Please use the hashtag Civic Summit. My guests this half hour won their districts outright, avoiding a runoff. Delia Garza of District 2, Ann Kitchen of District 5, which is in South Austin, and Kathy Tovo of District 9, which is downtown and central Austin. Kathy Tovo is an incumbent city council member who was facing a runoff with current councilman Chris Riley. Councilman Riley has since conceded that race, leaving Kathy Tovo the winner. Thanks to all of you for being here this evening. Now, the first question we're going to start with, which you all received ahead of time, I want to hear what you've learned about yourself over the past months of campaigning that will help you govern. And Delia, we'll start with you.
Okay, I thought long and hard about this question. One of the most challenging jobs I've ever had was as an Austin firefighter, and I feel like I learned the most about myself there. I did learn that I can survive on very little sleep, a horrible diet, and little exercise. And but what I learned in general was that this job is mostly about listening to people. You go in here thinking that you have your message straight and you're going to have these stump speeches, and you walk into a meeting and you sit down and you shut your mouth and you listen. And so I think that will help me on the council, and that's what this is about. It's listening to your constituents and Austinites and then coming up with ideas to help solve their problems.
Ann.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. I mean, this is so exciting. When I decided to run, you know, I've been in office before, and I decided to run because I really wanted to make a difference. And so what I learned from talking to people all over the district is the depth of passion and hope that people have for this 10-1 system. And that's very exciting because we're not going to make changes on our own. We're going to make changes with the people in our district together with all the people across the city. And so one of the things that was so heartening to me about the whole campaign process was how engaged people were, how passionate they are, and how much they want to see change and be part of that.
Kathy.
Well, I would agree with some of the comments that my new colleagues made as well. When I ran in 2011, I had a pretty short race, all things considering, and this was a much longer one. It was really a 9-month race, and it was coupled with serving on council, and it was a lot to balance. And I was reminded during the campaign of just how important it is to reach out and ask for help. Whether it was asking my family for more help, from asking my 7- and 8-year-old to, pick up some of the family tasks that needed to get done, to really reaching out to members of the community and asking them to volunteer. It is something I do, of course, all the time as a council member, reach out to members of the community and ask them for input about policies we're considering and working with my colleagues to shape policies. But a campaign demands tremendous energy from so many people across the community, and it was really important to be reminded of just how important it is to have a broad base of support and to have people who are passionate and as committed to working on city issues as I am, because it takes every single one of them to run a successful campaign and really to shape the policies of our city.
So, Delia, one thing that you said in your answer, we've heard from several folks who have been on campaigns the past few months, which is that lack of sleep, being very tired, that it's a big commitment to campaign. It takes a lot of time and energy. I know when you get to governing, it's not quite as intense, but it's still very time consuming, takes a lot of energy. So given that, and what you know about what it's like to campaign and to serve, I want to hear from each of you why you want to do this. And let's start with you for this one.
Well, I'm excited about it because I think it's a huge opportunity for the whole city. You know, my whole life has been about making things better for people and helping people improve their lives. And I think we just have a great opportunity with the 10-1 system to do that. You know, and so that fuels my energy. You know, and like my colleagues have said, one of the things you do have to learn is how to take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't do the job for people. So that's another aspect of it.
Kathy.
Well, I've loved nearly every minute of serving on council. It's just been an amazing privilege and an honor, and I love this community and feel that you know, we're facing a lot of great opportunities, but also some real challenges. And when I ran in 2011, I was very committed to working on issues of affordability, affordable housing, education, and those are still really pressing challenges. And I felt very compelled to step up and run for re-election because we still have a great deal of work to do in all of those areas. And I think with the new transition and with the new council, we'll have lots of ability to collaborate and really get more areas of the community involved in some of those pressing questions.
Delia.
I was on the Charter Revision Committee with Ann and became very passionate about 10-1 after my service on that committee. And just talking to people in my neighborhood, and they often expressed they didn't feel like they had a voice. When I worked for 10-1 trying to get the Proposition 3 passed, the one thing I would say that would resonate, because you have like 2 seconds at someone's door. I mean, they're reluctant to open the door to begin with, and then when they do, you want to get that one statement in there. And I would say, not a single city council member lives south of the river, and jaws would drop. And so, thankfully when 10-1 passed, I thought this was a wonderful opportunity. I've been in public service my whole life, and I love being an advocate, and I thought Southeast Austin needs a strong voice, and this was a wonderful opportunity, not only to get South Austin a voice, but to get more minorities on the city council. Hispanics are 36% of the city, and the old system, there were so many barriers to, if you weren't independently wealthy or had the right connections. In the at-large system, there were so many barriers, and so once 10-1 passed, I thought this is a system that I can hopefully succeed in, and I absolutely believe I couldn't have done it in an at-large system. Some people say, oh, you could have done it, but that's why I want it to be a voice, and I wanted to make sure we had more diversity on the city council.
So on the stage tonight, we have about a third of the new city council, which means at least a third of the council is going to be women. It could wind up being more. We won't know that till December 16th, or possibly into the morning of the 17th. And I'm just interested to hear from the three of you all how you think that makeup of the council might impact your approach to governing, your working with your colleagues, knowing that they're going to be at least 3 women, if not more, and you're going to have a mayor who's a man. So I'm just interested to hear kind of what your thoughts about those dynamics. And Kathy, if you want to start that.
Well, it'll be an interesting thing to see. In the history of the Austin City Council, there have only been 16 women to serve on the 16th. And so, in one election, we will have 4, at least, 4 female council members. And so I think it's a real testament to the changes that are before us. And I don't think we know yet how it might shape the dynamics or the policies, but it is really important. When I go, I try to go talk to as many classes as invite me. And I remember talking to a group of young middle school young women, and they were amazed when they heard that there were only 16 women who had ever served on the council and only 1 woman had ever served as mayor. Their jaws dropped. It was so inconceivable to them growing up in this society that there wouldn't have been more women leaders. And so I think it is very important that Austin have a council that is more reflective of our society.
Delia.
I think it's a wonderful thing to have more women. There's so many glass ceilings that need to be broken, and this is one of them. We should be 50% of everything, but I had all male opponents, and Ann had all male opponents. I don't know how much that affected too much, but I think I don't want to do any man bashing here, but I think women are more willing to collaborate and compromise, and I think it's a wonderful thing that for young girls to see women up there, women leaders. There's never been a Hispanic female Hispanic city council member, and so I mean I'm very humbled by having that. There were so many people that came before me that blazed this trail, and so I'm excited about the little Latinas growing up and seeing somebody that looks like them on the city council.
Ann.
Well, you know, I've been fighting for women in elected office for a long time. First with the Women's Political Caucus, and then I was co-founder of Annie's List. And I believe, and also from my experience at the Capitol, I really think that women approach things differently. And of course, that's a generalization, it's not true of all men, but in general, I would say that, that women are more collaborative, women are focused on solutions, women tend to be less focused on status. And so I think in the new council, it's got to be collaborative. This is going to be very challenging with all of us, you know, almost all of us being new, not all of us, but almost all of us being new. It's going to be very important that we take a collaborative approach to bring the whole city together.
So this will be a new council, new arrangement, the 10-1 system. And what that means is that some of you will draw 2-year council terms. And I think most people would say that that 2-year term might be a disadvantage just because it's such a short period of time. But I'm wondering if you can think of any positives to having just the 2-year term. And I think we're at Delia.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Delia.
Yeah. I think a positive if you're on the 2-year term is you're really going to start to work really hard fast, frankly. Not that I wasn't going to do that anyway, but especially as a new, I'm not an incumbent. I need to get out there, and I can't think of another positive, honestly.
Well, I think you know, a positive is that you'll have that the kind of conversation that you have in an election sooner with the public. Now, all of us are going to create those conversations with our districts. That's one of the beauties of the 10-1. But when you do an election, it's really holding you more accountable. And so from the public's perspective, I think that can be an advantage.
Kathy.
Well, I think that's an interesting point from the public's perspective. You know, 2 years is a very short period of time, especially when you look at how soon a campaign really needs to begin to be successful. That would really mean the council members who have 2-year terms, who draw 2-year terms, are beginning to think about running for re-election in about a year. And so, you know, that's challenging. I guess one positive is that if they save their yard signs, they will spend less money in their re-election campaign.
So I'm imagining that you all met a lot of people when you were campaigning for your seats, and I'd like each of you to share a story about maybe a person that you met on the campaign who really made an impression on you, or really had a story that was compelling to you, or really struck you in some way. Anne, if you want to start with that one.
Well, I have, you know, lots of stories, but one of them that really sticks with me is a woman that I talked to actually at the polls on election day. And she had ridden her bike over there. It was cold and wet, you know. But the story she had to tell me was about what had happened with her. She'd been working in really a job that was not great, you know, in terms of its wages, and then she got laid off. And so she was having to deal with all these kinds of issues. She lost her car, so she was riding her bike. She had to worry about where she was going to get food from day one to day, you know, from one day to the next. And it really, really struck me because it's you know, it's something I'm very well aware of, and affordability is very important to me, with my background in social service. But talking with her really put a fine point on it. You know, we have got to do everything we can to make sure that everybody in our city has a fair chance to live. So I really appreciated her sharing her story with me.
Kathy.
Well, the story that jumped into my mind when I was knocking on doors in one of the Central City neighborhoods, I heard lots of concerns along these lines, but I talked to one woman who had a teenage daughter. She was a single mother, is a single mother, and she said she had bought her house probably 15 years ago. She is a professional, and she said, you know, I look at my finances and I look at our increases in property taxes from month to month, and I know I can't stay here more than another year or two, and there aren't any other options within the central city where I can live and be able to afford my taxes. And it was the kind of concern I heard really at everyone's door about the escalating costs, whether I was talking to renters who were talking about the ways their rents had increased so dramatically over the last few years, or property owners who were struggling with their taxes. But that woman was so clear about how it was going to impact the next year or two of her family and their ability to stay in Austin.
Delia.
I had similar experiences with the similar stories of affordability, basically. And District 2 has retired teachers, retired firefighters, and they live in these fringes of the city because the other parts of the city have become too expensive. So those are the stories. And it's not something that I didn't know, but hearing it from people and putting a face to it and seeing that. I mean, when I bought my home 10 years ago, I had to decide, it's when I was a firefighter, decide whether to get a second job or to get a roommate. And that's just me as a single person, so I can see the issues that working families are facing. And these are people who have committed their careers to investing in this community, and they can no longer afford. 2 retired teachers living, a couple, that was their concern, is that I was a teacher for 20 years, my partner was a teacher for 20 years, and now we're in this situation where we might not be able to live in Austin, Texas anymore, this beautiful community that we chose to be our home. And so that was it's good to hear that it's across the city, the same theme basically of working families wanting to stay in Austin but not being able to.
So we've been learning about you all tonight and during the campaign, and learning about some of these issues that are across all the districts. And I want to hear a little bit about your districts now. If you were going to create a walking tour on a district and sort of take us on a tour, name a couple of places that would be kind of must-see stops on that walking tour of your district. Kathy, if you want to take that one first.
Gosh, well, District 9 is really an interesting one because it is in the central city, and there are some spots that are just very different from one another. You have Austin's master plan community of Miller, and so that would certainly be on my tour. You have downtown, which is one of our most dense areas and the economic center of the city, the university area, and then the central city. The District 9 is really bracketed by older, more traditional neighborhoods, south and north. And so if we were limited in our ability to go on our tour, I would probably pick one older neighborhood north, maybe Hyde Park, and then one older neighborhood south, Bowling Creek, so that you could see the downtown, our master plan community of Miller, West Campus, and then an older neighborhood on either side of the district. But you get a sense of how diverse it is. We have lots of students, seniors, families with children, older professionals without children. So it's a very broad mix of households and housing types.
Delia.
Okay, a tour would start at my house. and we'd go west, down Stastny, and then I think I'd go down Emerald Forest and pass by Odom Elementary, and then across William Cannon. Ditmar Rec Center is a gorgeous rec center is in the district. You'd go south on Palace Parkway, and then Slaughter, everything north of Slaughter. And then you go to the southeast side, and the most known neighborhood there is the Dove Springs area. The Dove Springs Rec Center is a gorgeous rec center, and I'm very privileged to serve on the advisory board there. They have such wonderful programs. I've seen how these free programs help the families in that area participate in things that they probably couldn't participate if they had to pay for such programs. And then there's the industrial area in Burleson, south of Benoit, a big industrial area, which I think is ripe for economic development. And so those are the main areas that I would hit on a tour.
Anne.
Well, I describe District 5 as a long, narrow, sometimes I talk about it as a boot, because it goes along South Lamar and South Manchac all the way south of Slaughter. So I would say, that there's lots of wonderful places in District 5. So Onion Creek would be an essential place to visit. the neighborhoods in Onion Creek. And then along Slaughter and up, going north along Manchac, the neighborhoods between Stasny and Slaughter, between William Cannon and Slaughter. Lots of old neighborhoods. People have been there for a while. Very, I was privileged to go to a July 4th picnic there, and anyway, it's a wonderful area. And then, of course, you head north of Ben White after stopping at Strange Brew, which is along Manchac. And then north and stop at the Broken Spoke, of course, and then head up to the lake area. So it's a great neighborhood, and it's a great district in South Austin. And one of the nice things that's been happening as part of all of this is the neighbors have been getting to know each other. The folks in the north part, the middle part, and the south part of the district. So I'm planning on continuing that, encouraging that.
So when you all were out in your districts campaigning, I want to hear from each of you what surprised you the most when you were out on the campaign trail in this campaign. Delia, we'll start with you.
What surprised me the most was continually educating voters on the 10-1 system. Many people did not know what district they lived in. They were a little familiar with the new districts, but they didn't know what district that they lived in. And there was a Statesman story about that I was interviewed for, and I think the response from the city was that, well, we have 78 candidates, we'll let 78 candidates educate the people, and I thought that was a poor decision. I think there should have been more help in educating the public on this. I mean, this is a historic change. So that was the most surprising, is that a lot of people did not know. Towards the very end, I started, but there again, you're knocking on the same doors a lot. So I'm sure they were, oh, it's her again. But then they knew they were in District 2. But that was surprising in the beginning.
Anne.
Well, what struck me the most was how engaged people were. How engaged people are, and their hope for change and their passion about change. I mean, the voter turnout in District 5 was very high in a lot of the precincts, and people really wanted to be part of this. And so it really struck me as I talked to people all across the district, how they wanted to talk about what needed to happen for South Austin, and that people in South Austin had felt like they had not been represented, and this was an opportunity to change that. So that really struck me throughout the whole entire campaign.
And Kathy?
I would say the same. Really, the level of engagement was very, very high, and that was a really welcome surprise. I campaigned in 2011 and did some, as much as I was able to in 2 months, some door-to-door knocking, and people certainly were interested in the issues, but it was nothing compared to this cycle. Neighborhood associations held forums and debates, and smaller organizations did as well. And just throughout the neighborhoods, it was really clear that people were so excited and engaged, not just with the race and the candidates who were running, but also the issues themselves. And it was, it is a really unusual time, because you did have groups forming around the district, and so individuals from the Cherrywood Neighborhood Association were talking to the Hyde Park Neighborhood Association and Bolden Creek Neighborhood. And so you had people from across the area who maybe hadn't met together as a group talking about local issues and what is important to them, and finding that they had a lot of similarities, even though their neighborhoods might look very different and be in different geographic areas of District 9. And so I believe it really signifies a whole new level of public engagement going forward, too. A lot of those alliances will hold, and that level of engagement will remain strong, I believe, and we'll have even more public participation down at City Hall, which is a very good thing.
Well, we thank you for your participation here tonight. We've come to the end of our time already, but we have a final question. We're short on time, so one sentence each. At the end of your term, what is the biggest mark that you would like to leave on your district? Anne, we'll start with you. One sentence from each.
I would like, the biggest accomplishment would be that the people of South Austin feel like they're represented, and that they have hope and engagement with their city.
Kathy?
I would like to see that we've really made progress on some of the big issues that we've been talking about as a community: affordability, education, environmental sustainability, that we've really made measurable steps in all of those areas.
Delia.
And I would love to be able to say that not a single working class family has to leave Austin again. So that would be a big accomplishment.
Well, we are out of time for tonight, but thanks to all of you, Delia Garza, Ann Kitchen, and Kathy Tovo. All of the Runoff conversations, including the conversation with candidates for Austin Mayor, will be available on YouTube and KLRU.TV. For KLRU, Leadership Austin, the Annette Strauss Institute for Civic Life, and KUT, I'm Jennifer Staten. Thanks so much for watching.
Support for Civic Summit comes from Google, a global technology leader focused on improving the ways people connect with information. And also by Texas Mutual Insurance, providing workers' compensation for Texas employers.
The two gentlemen that we're about to visit with will be back in somewhat different conversational mode on that date. We'll be airing it live in conjunction with KUT and with the Austin Monitor. So we encourage you to be here with us. And if you can't be here with us, to let folks know that at noon on Pearl Harbor Day, there will be a debate taking place. And we'll air it again later in the week prior to the final day of voting. So we hope you will join us for that. And with that, I'm going to turn it to Nathan Bernier, one of the other great voices from KUT. And Nathan, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it. We are, I guess, going to roll an intro. Austin's government is getting an overhaul. 10 new seats on the city council and a new mayor. On Election Day, voters whittled the field of mayoral candidates down to 2, Steve Adler and Mike Martinez. One will become the only person at City Hall elected by the city as a whole. Tonight, we're going beyond the rhetoric to find out why each of the remaining candidates says he is the right person to lead our city.
Support for Civic Summit comes from Google, a global technology leader focused on improving the ways people connect with information. And also by Texas Mutual Insurance, providing workers' compensation for Texas employers.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for Civic Summit Mayoral Runoff Conversation, a joint production of KLRU, Leadership Austin, KUT, and the Annette Strauss Institute for Civic Life. I'm Nathan Bernier with KUT 90.5, Austin's NPR station. And tonight I'm sitting down with the two candidates still standing in the race to be Austin's next mayor, Steve Adler and Mike Martinez. You can join in this conversation by using the hashtag #CivicSummitMayor. Now, this isn't the first time these two have sat down for a forum, so we're hoping to make this one a little bit different tonight. We're going to talk about leadership, why each candidate is the right person to lead a brand new form of council made up almost entirely of new faces. So first, let me introduce you to each of our candidates. Steve Adler is an attorney and philanthropist. He's lived in Austin for 36 years. He's originally from Washington, D.C. He served on the board of a number of Austin nonprofits, including Gen Austin, Breakthrough, the Long Center, and Ballet Austin. He lives in West Austin. Mike Martinez is a current Austin City Council member and former Mayor Pro Tem. He chairs the board of Capital Metro. Mike is a former Austin firefighter and former president of the Austin Firefighters Association. He lives in East Austin. So first question, you guys, which was shared with both of you before tonight. What have you learned about yourself over the campaign that will help you govern? And we'll start with you, Steve, because you're sitting closer to me.
Okay, well, great, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to talk with you and with Mike. You know, there's a lot that I've learned over the course of this campaign. In fact, I tell a lot of the friends and people that I talk to that everybody should do this once. Everybody should run for mayor just to go through this experience. The people that you get a chance to talk to and get a chance to meet and the situations you find yourself in are just truly extraordinary. But I've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot about myself. Picking one thing, I've learned that I have a farther way to go to become a better communicator than I thought. You know, I've been in a courtroom, so I've done a lot of communicating over the course of the last 30 years. But during this campaign, I've had the opportunity to spend some time in some of the East Austin churches with some ministers that have taught me what it means to really be able to communicate. They speak in a way that inspires and informs and educates and captivates. And seeing that model has raised the bar for me, so I know how much more I have to learn.
Okay, well, Mike, what about you? You've been campaigning 4 months now, I think both of you, right? What have you learned on the trail that might help you govern?
I think it's been more than 4 months.
Okay, right.
It's been about a year. It's been a great campaign. Thank you all for being here tonight. You know, I think for me, heading into this, most of you know, we have a 2-year-old. And I was a single father when I ran the first time in 2006. And it was a council race, so it wasn't nearly as intense as running for mayor. And so I think what we learned going into this, we thought, you know, this is going to be tough. We're going to run a campaign. We have a 2-year-old, a 16-year-old. We have full-time city council duties and chair of the board of Cap Metro and being a husband and a father. What we learned is, as a family, anything is possible as long as we stick together, love each other, work hard. My wife's home tonight right now taking care of Diego, watching online. And so that, I think what I learned is in serving in the mayor's office, our family is going to have to work together, stick together, love one another, and anything is possible with a lot of hard work.
All right, well, Austin has pretty low voter turnout. I'll ask you this first, Mike. You know, the people who engage with city leaders in civic politics, we have a bunch of people here tonight who are civically active, but overall, it's a pretty small portion. I mean, it could be bigger, a portion of the population that is civically active. How will you reach out to people whose voices might not often be heard, and how will their concerns affect your priorities?
I think that's exactly what I have focused on for 8 years. I want to be a council member that represents folks that, quite frankly, are working every day and raising their families and don't have time to come to City Hall and meet with council and don't have time to sit at a council meeting for hours on end waiting for 3 minutes to speak. I think that the average citizen wants an elected official that has walked in their shoes, that understands the issues they're struggling with, and that can effectively represent them and fight for them when you need to stand up and speak for the voiceless in our community.
What about you, Steve? You know, how do you get people engaged, and then how once you get them engaged, how do you allow their concerns and interests to affect your decisions?
You know, I think probably in 1,000 different ways, and that's what the promise and gift of this 10-1 system is all about. There are people all around the city of Austin that are feeling uninvolved and disengaged because, quite frankly, they've been uninvolved and disengaged. There are parts of this city that have not been at the table. Everybody on City Council right now lives north of the river and south of 45th Street. And for the first time with this 10-1 system, we're going to have people from all over the city. And I think people are already becoming more engaged. You know, in these campaigns that are happening, probably everybody's had someone come to their door 2 or 3 or 20 times at this point because of the mayor's election and because of the city council election. And I think that people are going to get more engaged because they see this as the opportunity to make sure that their voices are heard. And then I think we make sure that we institutionalize, we build a new way of doing government so that it's easier for people to participate, so that government comes to them and they're not always having to go to government, that it is both convenient and inviting, and that opportunity exists at all levels.
Now, okay, we're going to get into more leadership stuff here. You know, the city has a lot of boards, it has a lot of commissions, it has a lot of task forces. How would you, and we'll flip it this time, I'll ask you first, Steve, how would you delegate authority to citizen boards? Would you delegate more or less than what has been done in recent years?
I think that the citizen boards and commissions we have are part of our culture. It's part of who we are. It's a part of how we do things. And we have a large group of very involved civic activists and people that want to participate and make our government better because of their participation. I think it's important for us to make it more meaningful and make it more effective. You know, my hope is that working with the other council members, we can change how we do government and move to a greater committee system. So that we're not meeting at 3 o'clock in the morning making policy decisions from the dais with resolutions that have been filed 3 and 4 days earlier that have never really been vetted, where things usually go through a committee before they ever come to the city council. And then we can have those committees with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 city council members on them, dealing with substantive areas and taking what the city does and divide it into 10 different areas so that each of the council people can chair one of those committees. But what it also means then is there's going to be a closer contact between the boards and commissions and city council that are working on those substantive areas. You know, I deal with and talk to people right now that are serving on the boards and commissions, and sometimes they're discouraged or disheartened when the city council will quickly move past something that they've just spent weeks debating a nuance on, and they're wondering whether or not the council really understood that. But by having more activity at the council level, I think we're going to make the boards and commissions, give them a more direct role and a more meaningful role.
How about you, Mike? How would you delegate authority to citizen boards? You know, more or less than what has been done in recent years? What do you think?
You know, I think we have a great structure, actually. We do have a citizen-led initiative in our boards and commissions process. We do have council subcommittees that, you know, vet policies before they get to the council level. Ultimately, government is, you know, it operates under a certain procedure, just like at the legislature. The legislature is very heavy with a committee process. But even at the Texas legislature, once a bill hits the House floor or the Senate floor, it can change, it can be filibustered, it can go on forever, as we've seen in past sessions. Whenever you have a process that leads to the ultimate decision being made by the governing body, that is democracy. And sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it means things are going to pass that didn't look the same as when they came through the committee structure. Here's what I think is going to happen, though, and it's going to take a little while to kind of get past this learning curve. You got 10 council members from 10 different districts, and we have probably 60 plus board and commissions. So now that's 11 citizens that we have to find for those 60 plus, and some of those boards and commissions are more than 11. Some of them are going to be 22 because of the current definition of how we appoint citizens. So when you think about it from that perspective, those districted council members, they're going to be pressured to appoint someone from their district to represent them on those issues. But I want them to understand you have to look throughout the city, because there are folks that are committed and that have background and experience that can serve us well. And they may not be from your district. They may be from a neighboring district, or they may be from across town. I don't want this district structure to impede the citizen process. I don't want it to be to get bogged down at the district level. I want to help our council members think beyond that and really find the strengths that we need to make the boards and commission system work moving forward with this new form of government.
Well, then let me give you a hypothetical situation here, because it's a totally new form of government. Say you have 2 North Austin City Council members, and they want to increase a city service in their area. But by adding more resources to those 2 districts, you have to make cuts in other districts. So how would you decide in that situation? What takes precedence? How would you resolve conflict between council members? It kind of speaks to that issue.
That is exactly what is going to be the next, mayor's challenge and also opportunity. We're going to have council members from a district system. And by the way, I supported single-member districts since before getting on the council. I think it's way beyond time that we move to a geographic form of representation. I think we're going to have one of the best city councils we've ever seen because of what Steve mentioned. We're going to have folks from every corner of the city. The issues, whether they're in North Austin or South Austin, whether you're a district council member from East or West Austin, your issues are going to be the same. Your issues are going to be, I want safe streets, I want safe neighborhoods, I want my kids to have a good education, I want good job opportunities, I want a good economy. Those things are going to rise now, I think, to a more common ground level among the district council members. Whether you live in Dove Springs or whether you live at 360 and 183, those issues resonate with the residents. They want their city services on time, they want their pools open in the hours that they need them open, they want their libraries open in the hours that they want. Those are going to resonate across. As mayor, you find that common ground and you build on that common ground. You don't start out having conversations where the differences lie. You start out where you have common ground. And there will be times when there is disagreement. As mayor, here's the other thing. Under Robert's Rules of Order, technically the mayor is not supposed to vote. The mayor is only supposed to vote in a tie-breaking situation. So you really are the arbiter of the conversation, of the dais debate and discussion. That is exactly how I will function as mayor. I won't wedge myself between district council members. I will make sure that they're fighting for their districts, doing what they think they need to be doing, but understanding that whatever decision we make as a body, it affects all of Austin, not just that one district.
What about you, Steve? There's going to be conflicts on the city council. There's going to be limited resources and different members from different districts seeking the interests of their constituents. How do you manage how do you decide what takes precedence? How do you resolve conflict between council members?
How do you resolve conflict between two council members? I think the answer to that's carefully. And we're going to have disagreements between council members, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's a good thing. We have one city here, and we either move together as a whole city or none of us are going to be moving together. There's a lot of common ground, and you begin with that common ground and you build off of that. You also set up institutions and structures in city government that are different than how city government is set up now. If you had that committee system I was talking about a second ago and everybody on the council chaired one of those committees, then every one of them is going to have a citywide responsibility in addition to their district responsibility. Every one of them is going to have to develop and cultivate a citywide constituency in addition to their district, so that when they go to bed at night and they put their head on their pillow, they're just not going to be thinking about their district. They're also going to be thinking about that substantive area, but citywide. I think that part of the mayor's job in this coming term is to make all 10 of the council people absolutely the best mayoral candidate that every one of them can be. So I think part of it is maintaining a focus and a perspective that looks at the entire city, recognizing that everybody on council is going to be an advocate for their district. And the two district council people that are having that dispute this week are going to be the two district people that are going to be joined together and trying to build the coalition next week. So it's important to be able to manage and work with those disagreements to find common ground. You're always not going to be able to find it necessarily, but to build on and keep open the system so that the ability to reach that compromise either on this issue or on the next issue is something that's expanded.
Well, I really want to dig into this a bit more because just from talking to people, I think there's concern that 10-1 is going to cause maybe some gridlock. So let me ask you then, Steve, what about your background makes you, confident that you'll be able to create unity on the council? Can you give us something about your background that would give us confidence in that?
Well, I think that the different people come with different skills and different things that they enjoy doing. And in my entire professional career, going back 34 years, what I have done at every stage has been bringing people together. I got to UT was the cheapest law school in the country, and they gave me a scholarship. And I started here and started my legal practice here. So I'm in an environment that's dealing with adversaries, people that have walked into a situation with no common ground in sight, and have built a career, and a legal career built on bringing people together and finding the creative solution or the resolution that enables people to put aside the dispute and be able to move forward. I spent almost 10 years, 4 sessions over 8 years as Chief of Staff and General Counsel in a state senator's office at the Capitol. And in that environment, again, you're bringing people together. You're finding that solution, that creative solution that enables you to be able to command and bring together a majority of people, and hopefully significantly more than a majority of people. I was in an office where we were able to do that well enough that people who had disputes that had nothing to do with our office would bring them into our office with hopes that we might be able to help them find that common ground. And then in 25 years, dealing with a lot of the large civic and institutions that we have in this city, with the Anti-Defamation League, and on the founding board of the Texas Tribune, with Breakthrough in Austin, and arts organizations in town, and also dealing with some of the city processes that I've been involved in. I was on the Leadership Council of Create Austin and functions within the city itself. It's something that I enjoy doing. It's something that I think comes naturally to me, being able to pull people together to make the group greater than the sum of the parts, to find that creative solution that pulls people together.
Mike, I got to ask you the same question. What about your background, makes you the right person to create unity on this new 10-1 council?
Have you ever sat in a fire station with a bunch of firefighters? Let me tell you. They come from different backgrounds with different political views, different experiences. Now try leading 1,000 of them in one direction. Try to get them to come to a consensus on things like a labor agreement, with a lot of strife and discussions that's gone back and forth with the city manager, with the mayor and council. You know, as the president of the firefighters and as a leader in that organization, I was elected the vice president of the firefighters 1 month after getting off of probation my rookie year as a firefighter. That's what I've done for 22 years, is find that common ground, not be afraid to have those difficult conversations, to tackle the difficult challenges we face, but then coming up with creative solutions when there is a stalemate, when there appears to be no other direction to turn, finding that solution and moving it forward. I think that my background as a firefighter serves me perfectly well for elected office. In a sense, it's very similar. When someone calls my council office, that's their problem of the day. That's their highest priority of the day, and they're calling their council member and they need help. And they want you to respond very quickly and solve their problem and not cost them any money. That's what we do at the fire department. You call 911, you tell us your problem, we respond within 3 minutes, we take care of it, we hug you, and we walk out and don't charge you a dime. You know, that prepared me well for the constant fire drills, if you will, at City Hall. You know, that we have a deliberative process. We have council meetings where we engage with stakeholders and our community members, but you're never going to be able to stop that instantaneous response that citizens want from you. When their trash didn't get picked up this morning, why didn't they come? I'm calling you. You're my council member. Help me figure this out. You have to stay calm. You have to find a solution for them. You have to assure them that you're going to follow through, and then you have to follow through. And if you made a mistake, if we as a city or I as a council member made a mistake, you apologize for that mistake, and you tell them you're going to learn from it and try not to repeat that mistake. It's being straightforward and honest. It's not placating our citizens. It's telling them exactly where you lie on an issue. But here's I guess, one of the things that I think distinguishes me from a lot of my colleagues, and I think from Steve a little bit. He's never served in office, so I can't say that it's a clear distinction, but I'm not afraid to take on very difficult issues that I think are important for all of Austin. And we've done that. I've done that as a council member. When you think about taking 18 months to rewrite our economic incentive policies so that it pays $11 an hour minimum wage and pays prevailing wages to construction workers and health care benefits and domestic partner benefits. We were fighting, my office, me, we were fighting everyone else against us. The business community, the chamber, the mayor. Folks thought it was going to kill job creation in Austin. It took us 19 months. We passed it through the council with a 6-to-1 vote. I'm very proud of that work. Wasn't afraid to take on that issue. And every company that's come here since then has agreed 100% to that entire policy. That, I think, clearly demonstrates the ability to lead, take on very difficult issues, and make sure that they get adopted and have a huge impact on our citizens.
Well, my trash doesn't get picked up. I call 311. I don't call my city council member. And it works. It's really effective. You know, I got to give you a chance to respond to that, Steve, because he said that, you know, he's trying to set himself up. Do you have any response to what he said in that regard?
Well, I think, you know, being mayor means you tackle difficult issues. And it also means you find new direction and resolution for the difficult issues. And I think that that's something that we need to do that we haven't really done successfully. You know, when we tackle affordability issues, we need to make the city less expensive. When we tackle transportation issues, we actually need to move so that the city is less congested than more congested. And we need to tackle the hard issues, and we need to resolve them as well.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, and again, this, you know, we're really focused on leadership questions here. So, because I know we've spent a lot of time, even with me, we've talked about, you know, other issues like transportation, roads, and water. We're really trying to dig into your leadership style here, and so I want to ask you, Steve, you know, outside of local government, who do you admire for their leadership qualities, and why?
Outside of government and leadership qualities. There are some executive directors of nonprofit organizations in this city that I think are doing an extraordinary job. And two come to mind, Cookie Ruiz and Julia Cuba. Both run nonprofit organizations in this city, and I think they're both amazing. The challenges that nonprofits have to deal with anywhere are pretty extensive because resources are limited and there's a lot of competition for attention. But both of these women are strong, and both of these women have been able to run nonprofits in a way that both is fiscally responsible, but also to develop cutting-edge programs to deliver the services or the product that their organizations are doing. Cookie Ruiz with Ballet Austin, which has become a national leader in that art field, and not only has great art, but has been able to develop a program which is socially responsible and uses art as a convener for community conversations. She's done just an amazing job. And Julia Cuba, who's done several different nonprofits, the Girl Scouts and the Girls Empowerment Network, providing incredible service for girls and young women in our community, more in the trenches with a smaller organization that's battling those kinds of challenges that organizations that size deliver. But both of them have been able to move organizations forward in ways that are exciting to watch and inspirational.
Okay. And what about you, Mike? You know, outside of local government, a role model for leadership, someone whose leadership qualities you admire?
I admire my mom more than anyone on this planet. My mom is the most amazing human being that's ever walked this earth. She was a single mother with 2 kids, my sister and I. She made $3 an hour as a secretary at Keller Aluminum Chairs in Caldwell, Texas. She brought home her paycheck and was so proud she'd broke the $100 a week pay scale. It was $101 for 40 hours of work. That was her take-home pay. She bussed tables at a restaurant at night. And so it's a small town. Caldwell, Texas is about, back then, it may not even been 1,000 people. I think we had one, it wasn't even a stoplight, it was one flashing light. It was in the town. But it's where my family settled from Mexico. It's where my grandfather and his uncle settled in 1910. So Mom, she didn't want us hanging out with Grandma all day, you know, during the summer. We didn't have daycare. She couldn't afford daycare, couldn't pay for a babysitter. So Mom put us in swimming lessons when I was 5 and Antoinette, my sister, was 6. And so we took swimming lessons from 10 a.m. to noon, and then the pool, the city swimming pool, opened up at noon. And we would stay after swimming lessons and swim till 4 or 5 o'clock. Then we'd go meet Mom at home. We'd walk home and Mom would be there. So the first summer was fine. We paid for swimming lessons, no big deal. Second summer they said, you know, we're kind of changing the rules. You're going to have to buy a membership. We've changed from a public pool to a private nonprofit. We need you to pay for a membership. She didn't have the money. She borrowed it from her family members, raised the money, paid the membership. I said, well, it's actually per person. It's not per family. So it was $150 per person. Then it went to, $150 for a family. Then it went to $150 per person. The bottom line was, long story short, they didn't want us going swimming in the public swimming pool in Caldwell, Texas back then. And Mom stood up to them. And we called her one day and we said, Mom, they kicked us out of the pool. You know, we can't go in there. She went back to the pool and she stood there with her arms crossed and she said, you two get in the pool. And everybody cleared out and we were crying. We were like, Mom, don't make us do this. And she said, get in that water. And she stood there at the front of the swimming pool with her arms crossed and watched her kids get in the water. And of course the lifeguard just, you know, he ran the pool and he said, yeah, Miss Martinez, you have to go. You have to stop. You just need to stop. And so she began calling the mayor and saying, this is a public pool. We all pay taxes. How can my kids not swim in the public pool? You know, private, nonprofit now, we've kind of switched gears. She's always been that way. She's always looked out for folks that are being mistreated. She taught me that at a super early age. We ended up having to, we moved away. We didn't have to. We ended up moving away from Caldwell, Texas. And I remember she was crying that day. It was her hometown. She was leaving. And for whatever reason, I said this to her, you know, because we'd been trying to meet with the mayor. And I said, Mom, it's okay. Someday I'll be the mayor. And I won't treat you or anyone else like you've been treated. And that's why I admire her the most. She's never stopped helping people who need it the most, including her own kids. She set an incredible example for both of us and for many folks. She's still, to this day, helping people each and every day, volunteering at church every day. She's an amazing woman.
Well, then, in the spirit of your mom's kind heart, I want to ask you guys a tough question. It's sort of a kumbaya moment, but you know, it's not necessarily easy. Can you tell us something, and you go first, Mike, because I asked Steve the last question first. Tell us something about your opponent's experience that would make them a good leader for our city. I'm not asking you to endorse the Adler campaign. What do you? That would be okay.
Yeah. Let's not preclude that.
But I mean, come on, both you guys are civically active. You care about your city. What do you see in Steve that could make him a good leader for our city?
From what I know, he is an incredible attorney. Extremely, extremely smart. And I think that's going to serve him very well should he win this election. He has, you know, and again, I don't know Steve very well. I've gotten to know him on the campaign trail, but trust me, I hear folks that know Steve and what they say about him. And they admire him a great deal for his intellect, for his ability to negotiate extremely, extremely difficult scenarios and situations. I think that's going to serve him very well as an elected official.
And Steve, same question to you. Tell us something about Mike Martinez's experience that you think might make him a good leader.
I think he's a fighter. You know, not only literally in terms of coming from a background where you serve the city, as a part of the public safety infrastructure that we have, but there's a resolve that you have and a determination and a grit, and I think that fighting characteristic is something that has served you in the community well.
Don't you guys feel great?
Can't we just be co-mayors?
No, we can't have that.
Come on, if we're going to blow government up here in Austin and change it, let's change it all together.
Well, let's blow it up a little bit more here, just theoretically. I got another question for you. You know, for you, Steve, first. There's been some discussion about a strong mayor form of government. That would be another dramatic leadership change in our community. Is that ever on your mind? And if you had executive authority to do anything in Austin, you know, what would you do with that power?
You know, we do have what they say is a strong city manager, weak mayor form of government. When you look at other cities nationally, the trend is to move towards strong mayor governments, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if the city of Austin didn't follow that same course. I don't think it's the kind of thing that this new council should pick up early in its term. We need to set up the institutions and structure of government so that we can operate well, and so I think we need to focus there instead. But the mayor has pretty extraordinary powers as it is. The mayor has the power to convene. The mayor has the power of the bully pulpit. And if you use those powers and use those powers well, I'm not sure there are greater powers in this community than those two. And I think that as mayor, I would use those powers to be able to convene people and to help set and rally the community so that we can deal with the pretty significant challenges we have to deal with.
What about you, Mike? Strong mayor form of government, is that something you think about? And if you had that executive authority, what would you do with it?
You know, obviously, having been a city employee and been a public servant for 22 years, I've heard this conversation for 22 years. I think it's really about leadership style. It's really about who's in those positions. When people like the city manager, they're fine with this form of government. When they don't like the city manager, they start talking about strong mayor form of government. When they don't like the mayor, they start talking about council manager form of government. It's really about leadership style. I think Steve is right, though. I think most large cities are moving towards or tending to trend towards a strong mayor form of government. It just, you know, I can't answer the question of what would I do with those powers because I don't know what those powers would be. We'd have to draft that charter amendment up, and ultimately it'd have to be passed by the citizens of Austin. I think you can be a very effective leader in this form of government. When you look back at some of our previous mayors, Kirk Watson and Jesus Garza, who served as city manager and mayor, I bet people would think that we had a strong mayor form of government at that time because those two leaders were extremely dynamic and complementary of one another and led very well in their respective positions. So if the community wants to have that conversation, that is certainly their right. I don't think it's appropriate for me as a candidate for mayor to say we should or should not go towards that form of government.
Okay. Well, the city has definitely seen a big change in demographics, age and ethnicity over the last 10 years. So if you were mayor, Mike, how would you address these changing demographics? And specifically, let's take a look at a few groups: rising young professionals, the growing pre-senior demographic, and we've also had a growth in international residents and a decline in African Americans. I know that's a lot there, but just give me an idea, broadly speaking, what do you see as the challenges with the demographic shifts that are happening in the city, and how would you address those challenges?
Obviously, the challenges are things like gentrification in historically minority and ethnic communities in Austin, East Austin. We're talking about East Austin. We have worked on with State Representative Eddie Rodriguez on the Homestead Preservation District. To me, this is a policy that really does speak directly to what is happening in East Austin. New residents are moving in. New residents are either remodeling or rebuilding homes, causing property values to go up. An older long-term resident next door who's been there 30, 40 years now sees their values start to go up, and they're on a fixed income, and they get pushed out of the neighborhood. The Homestead Preservation District would stem that tide of gentrification. It's not the only policy that we should work on, and it's not the solution to all of those issues, but it certainly is one area where the new can continue to come into Austin without having the negative effect of pushing the long-term residents out of East Austin. It would allow them to stay in their home. It would allow the new residents who are paying that higher property value and higher property tax bill to use a portion of that to offset the rising property tax bills for the older long-term residents. it would allow them to stay in their homes longer. So today, if you sell your home in East Austin, depending on its condition and age, it's a few $100,000. But what if you could stay there another 10 to 15 years? The value of that home would be exponentially more. So those long-term residents would be able to stay there, not be priced out because of rising property taxes, and then sell for a much greater value in the long run whenever it is they determine they want to sell their home. That's one issue. The young demographic that you talked about, we have to get them more engaged. They are engaged to a large extent, but like many groups, it's a certain few. We need this young professional community that is going to be the future leaders, if they aren't already leaders in their own right, to get more actively engaged, more involved, serving on boards and commissions, participating in the civic process. We hear from many of them, via Twitter and through social media forums. Tonight, I'm sure you're getting a lot of hashtag questions and things coming in, but it's more than that. You have to roll your sleeves up and get involved. With the African American population, we have to have policies that are culturally competent and understand the offsetting effects that they're having, such as on the African American community. When you look at the East 11th Street corridor, the Austin Revitalization Authority corridor, that project was specific to revitalizing an area that was historically African American. And in fact, it's where our African American Heritage District is as well. We went in, we spent tens of millions of dollars revitalizing it. There are no African American businesses there but one, and that's Victory Grill. There are hardly any African American residents living in that district. They're being pushed out. It is a very difficult issue to address. We faced it in the Holly neighborhood. In 2008, some Holly residents came to me and said, why aren't you spending money in Fiesta Gardens like you guys do in Zilker Park? They have great playscapes, they have all these amenities. I said, you know what, you're right, let's do it. We spent $350,000 planning on how to rebuild Fiesta Gardens. Now they're saying, don't do anything because you're just going to attract people that we don't want here.
Okay, I want to let Steve jump in on this question as well. Changing demographics, Steve. We've seen a lot of change over the last 10 years here in Austin. And so, what do you see as the challenges that poses to city government, and how might you address those?
Austin is a magical place. There is a spirit and soul to this city that's unique. You go anywhere in the country and say you're from Austin, Texas, and it means something to people. But I'm concerned about this city for those challenges. I think Austin is at a tipping point. We have pretty significant challenges that we're not getting out in front of, and a lot of them arise from the changes in the demographics. People say there are 110 people moving to Austin every day, and that's not the right number. That's a net number, and you can hide a lot of things in a net number. There are really 150 people moving to Austin every day, and there are 40 people that are leaving. And we talk a lot about the people that are coming, and we don't talk as much about the people that are leaving. We need to have a conversation about both if we're going to understand the city. We are losing communities and losing people because it's too expensive to live here. We've gone from being one of the most affordable big cities to one of the most expensive big cities. We have a growing population, one of the fastest growing populations of 55 to 60-year-olds in the country in our city right now. And a lot of them are on fixed incomes, and they're watching home prices go up 3.5 times faster than incomes are going up that are relatively stagnant. We have African American kids in this city under 18, 53% of them living in poverty, and 45% of Hispanic kids under 18 living in poverty in our city. So we have to deal with those, and we have to provide greater opportunity for people. We need to start with helping, like Mayor Castro did in San Antonio, moving toward universal pre-K for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, so that kids start school in the right way. We need to increase the training for middle-class jobs so that the people that live here have an opportunity to move up the economic ladder. We need to revise the property tax system in ways that state law allows us to do it so that people can afford to stay in their homes. We need to look at how we're doing utility bills and fees in this city, some of which the renters pay that are illegal at this point. So the answer to your question in terms of demographics are a lot of policy answers.
Yeah, I know, it's a big question. So here's sort of a follow-up to that, and I'm just curious, because we're talking about all these different groups in the city, and as mayor, you have to represent all of them, right? How do you go about seeking out, listening to different perspectives and opinions on an issue to sort of widen and broaden your perspective?
Well, I think that's the key, and you almost define the role of the mayor and the job description for the mayor, because it's important for that office to be a place where everyone feels that they can go to and have access, and go to and be heard, and go to and be understood. You know, as you go around the city in a campaign like this, you begin to see at a 60,000-foot level trends and patterns that you might not have seen before, because there's so much information coming to you and so many people coming to you at once. You begin to see efficiencies that might exist. You see common goals. You see common hardships and common problems. I think that as mayor, you have to make sure that you're accessible, so that people can reach you and reach you easily. It means you go out to people so that that contact is something that happens very easily. It's something that you demonstrate that you're able to listen, not only by listening, but by the actions that you take following conversations and information. And then it's a question of assimilating that information from lots of different places, and then trying to find, again, the creative solutions, the next steps, the cutting edge approaches. It's reaching out and looking at what other cities are doing, so that we're not always trying to reinvent the wheel ourselves, but finding those best practices. It's making for a very big tent. And trying to harvest the talents that come from a very wide community.
Same question to you, Mike. How do you go about finding and listening to different perspectives and opinions on an issue?
Yeah, you finish your previous comment by saying, as mayor, you have to represent everyone. And I would say, as a council member, you have to represent everyone as well. And we must not lose sight of that. That is going to be one of the jobs that the mayor has to impart upon this next council is, yes, you're in a district, and yes, you have a constituent base, but you represent all of Austin. I used to teach, I was the only cultural diversity training for the Austin Fire Department, believe it or not. And I trained all 1,000 firefighters. And there's a component in that training that I think is extremely effective when it comes to leadership. You have to learn how to listen to hear, as opposed to learning how to listen so you can speak. And that is very significant when you're in a leadership role, such as a council member or a mayor. What you're listening for is that person's true, what we called in the training, you're listening for their true ouch. What is, because it really is specific. They may be very frustrated and give you all kinds of reasons as to why things are not working the way they want them to work. But you have to be able to critically listen to what they're saying and figure out, what is it that I can do to help you, to help solve this problem that you've brought to us. I think that is a skill set that is sorely needed by most, if not all, elected officials. It's that listening component that, you know, you hear about politicians and elected officials and, wow, they speak so well. They're such a good speaker and they're such a good motivator. You have to be a better listener than you are a better speaker.
All right, let's shift gears here for a quick second. I want to throw out the Keep Austin Weird mantra for a moment, and I want to throw out the live music capital of the world. Create a motto for Austin to carry us through the next 20 years. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but so, you know, we'll give you extra points the faster you answer. You're first, Mike. Can you think of I mean...
Oh, you know, the Keep Austin Weird thing is fun, and it works. It's a great little brand.
I'm not trashing Keep Austin Weird. I'm just saying, if you were to come up with a motto...
I'm not either. I just wish it was better than Keep Austin Weird, because you have to end up explaining it to folks a lot of times. What is Keep Austin Weird?
Sure. What should the city's motto be, though? I mean, how would you encapsulate Austin in just a few words?
I used to have a bumper sticker that said, on Earth as it is in Austin.
Unpack that for us a little bit.
It's said that this is it. You know, this is the place. This is why those 150 people are moving here a day. There's something special about Austin. There's opportunity. You can make it as a musician. You can make it as a business leader. I moved here in 1988 as a 19-year-old wide-eyed kid with $50 and a trumpet because I just felt the magic of Austin, and I wanted to make my life here. And it's been incredible. And I think so many folks in our community can say that. Not everyone, and we're not without our problems. Please don't get me wrong. But it's a pretty special place. And so I kept that bumper sticker on my same little Chevy pickup truck that I drove from age 19 to age 38 on Earth as it is in Austin.
Steve, can you create a motto for Austin that might fit on a bumper sticker as well?
See, I don't know if you're kidding here, but my motto would be, Austin, a new way forward. But let me tell you what I mean by that. The challenges that we face in this city are not unique to Austin. Gentrification, the disparity in wealth, the atrophying of the middle class are not problems that are unique to Austin, but Austin is uniquely positioned to be able to be the city that can actually get ahead of those and solve those. And the reason for that is because we have such a strong and vibrant economy. I mean, we are not one of the cities that you read about that is challenged in ways that prevent them from being able to reach those goals. I would love for Austin to be known as the city where those kinds of social impact ideas were born and created and shown that they could in fact achieve results, and I think we can do that.
I got to ask you though, I mean, this 10-1 form of government, we're going to have probably some growing pains, right? What are your expectations for what we could actually accomplish, and should we be lowering our expectations under 10-1?
No.
I mean, especially for the first few years of what's possible, given we're going to have a lot of new people on council?
Absolutely not. No. There is promise and potential in this 10-1 that is huge. And when the people of this city voted to adopt 10-1, they didn't vote for it because they expected it to sit back and go through growing pains for a year or two or three or four. They adopted this because they thought and believed and will insist that this is a system of government that enables us to achieve results. So I think the promise is incredible coming from that group. And when you look at the other people that are running, the three that have already been elected, and the pool that from which the final 7 will be selected as council people, this is a great group of people, and these are people that are not going to be sitting back and waiting. This is a group that's going to come together and I believe achieve great things. So I, for the record, will say that I expect expectations to be high.
How about you, Mike? Should people, are we going to go through some growing pains? Should we expect that? Should we cut the new council some slack for the first little bit?
I think citizens will watch and maybe make judgments that, that person's going through growing pains. Those council members, if Steve is afraid of meetings past midnight, we better create some structure, because these new council members are coming in with mandates. They feel like they're coming to change some things at City Hall, and you're going to have to put some structure in place so that you don't have an agenda that has 400 items on it each and every week, because they're going to want to get some things done. They're not going to want to sit and talk about it. They're not going to want to sit and process it. This is the new day for Austin, and they're the first new council under this new form of government. And I say they're going to come in guns a-blazing and want to put so many things on that agenda to affect their district, to affect Austin, to make things better. Because that's what we've been hearing every day on the campaign trail. The issues of affordability, the issues of utility prices going up, the issue of preserving the characters of our neighborhoods. All of these things have been brought up every single day during this campaign. And these council members know what their constituents are expecting of them. So no, it will not be slow moving at City Hall at all. January 6th, they'll hit the ground running.
All right. And Steve, I assume you would disagree with the assessment that you're afraid of meetings after midnight, or I got to give you a chance to respond. You don't want them to go past midnight?
And don't, because people shouldn't have to wait till after midnight.
He was afraid of it.
I'm just trying to be fair.
Those are his words. When he says it, he says, I'm afraid of council when I see them meeting so late. And I get that.
When I says it scares me.
Okay.
And it does.
Trust me, I don't want to be there past 10 o'clock either.
And people in the public shouldn't have to be there at midnight or 1 or 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in order to be able to be heard.
Point
and that's what I meant.
Okay. So last question for you guys, all right? At the end of your term, and who did I ask first last time? It was you. Yeah. So at the end of your term, Mike, how will your constituents describe your leadership skills and qualities? How would you like to be, if you're elected mayor, how would you like to be remembered?
Wow. I am so proud of the work that this council has done and the councils that I've served with. It's been an honor to be a council member, and being mayor will be just a tremendous, even a higher honor. I want folks to know that, that Mike Martinez put some policies in place that affected a lot of people in a good way for a long, long time. When you talk about things like fighting for the middle class and raising the bar on minimum wage and fighting for women's reproductive health care at the local level, those are all national issues. But what I would say to this new council coming in, you don't have to wait on the legislature. You don't have to wait on Congress to get things done. You can start at the local level, and it can grow up organically from here. And that is what I'm proud of, that we've done so much of here in Austin, Texas. We pushed the bar forward. We pushed the bar higher as it relates to initiatives that we take upon ourselves. Some of you may have listened to KLBJ AM today, talking about rainbow crosswalks and why are we wasting time on that? It's not a waste of time. It's about your community's values. It's about what's important.
All right. Thank you, Mike. And same question to you, Steve. If you're elected mayor at the end of your term, how would you like constituents to describe your leadership skills and qualities?
I think probably if they would say that I had been effective, because I think bottom line, that's what you want from a leader. I grew up in Washington, D.C. My brother and I were the first in our family to go to college. I could only go because they gave me a scholarship, and I went to Princeton that way. I came, as I said earlier, to law school here in Texas because it was the cheapest law school, and they gave me a scholarship. My father died when I was 21, and my mother followed him 6 years later. So I know what it's like to get support and help and have opportunities opened for you. And I have spent my entire life and career trying to wedge my foot and shoulder in that door to ensure that other people have that same opportunity. And I think that that's what you want government to do. You want everyone, wherever they are in this city, to feel like they have an equal opportunity, that they too have a chance to succeed and provide for their families and improve their station in life. There are wonderful things that are happening in this city, and we have to maintain those, but we also have to make sure that it's shared by everybody. And if we're able to do that, and people would say, hey, Steve was effective at getting that done, that would be where I would like to begin.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. So thanks to both of you guys, Steve Adler and Mike Martinez. And this conversation will be available on YouTube and on KLRU TV. Early voting in the runoff election starts December 1st. Election day is December 16th. So write those dates down. For KLRU, Leadership Austin, the Annette Strauss Institute for Civic Life, and KUT 90.5, I'm Nathan Bernier. Thank you so much for watching.
Support for Civic Summit comes from Google, a global technology leader focused on improving the ways people connect with information. And also by Texas Mutual Insurance, providing workers' compensation for Texas employers.